again, just a little mechanic we threw in to make sure that it was interesting to fight these mobs. Okay, just waiting for the team now. Here they come. Alright, so over here to the right is another cave. This one's filled with bandits. You'll find bandits, roaming around all of Jazane, of course, just like the rest of them. Major source of something to kill easily. I'm going to put Sil on for a little bit of commentary. I think he wants to say some words.
Okay, and we're back, and I'm in the middle of combat with one of these outlaws, which you can't see because Joel is on the screen. And one of the things you'll notice with the expansion is, as all of this content that we've just gone through and the areas that we're walking is all within one playfield region. And you'll notice that we've been able to, these playfield regions really are have the largest playable space that we've had in any of the playfields to date. And the path through them, with all of these different cities, these little camps, these small, caves and mini dungeons, as Joel was mentioning, it really makes the story in each individual playfield region to be very self-contained, very interesting, and large and epic. Everything from the sweeping rolls of the hills through to the battlefields, through to the areas that we're fighting through now. You can see that each of these playfields really is it's a huge area, and there's a lot of gameplay in here. We're rushing through these areas quite quickly, but when you're playing as a player without the aid of King Conan here beside us, it's obviously going to be a little bit more time-consuming, and being able to find out all the content and discover all the different stories, separate factions. In this case, the Scholars of Shengho and the Tamarin Tigers. And Conan's off there climbing up some, leaving his team behind, fighting off on his own, exploring some of the other areas. And again, you've got all these little... What we've tried to do in these expansion playfields is really make the exploration of the playfield something interesting for players. So what you've got is you have all these small little areas hidden away where the players will be able to discover for themselves. And I think once we're done in this cave, maybe Joel can take us to show us some of the shrines that we have scattered throughout the playfields. And basically, I think one of the other areas with the exploration idea that we wanted to do through Kitai is that the people of Kitai have many, many gods. Literally hundreds of gods. And there are different shrines to all of the gods in each of the areas. And the player can go on quests to discover each of these little shrines hidden away. Some of them are obviously in the middle of cities and a lot more easier to find, but some of them are much, much further away, and the players have to go and explore quite a lot to be able to find all of them. It's another element of the expansion which just really adds to that exploration feeling. It was something we really wanted to capture in the expansion, where a lot of the feedback that we got very early on from the existing playfields was that the playfields felt quite claustrophobic and were quite linear in places. So with the expansion, as you can see here, we've tried to go for something much more sweeping and epic, and much more open for those players that enjoy the kind of exploration gameplay to kind of get lost in the playfields and find themselves. Here you go, you can see Conan is approaching one of the many shrines that the players will be able to find throughout the expansion playfields. And some of the shrines even have special functions with them, where if the player does the correct action to show respect and offering to that god, they might get a little bit of a bonus. But if they make the wrong action around or make the wrong emote in the presence of the altar, they actually might find themselves cursed and debuffed for a period of time. So there's all these kind of little Easter eggs hidden in the playfields, which maybe reveal a little bit more about the lore or about the factions, and really allow the player to really get that sense that they're exploring Kitai, because we really want that feeling that this is a strange and kind of alien land to people from King Conan's kingdom, and the players really have to discover it for themselves as they go through the gameplay. And I've just lost Conan because he's wandering off towards the city there. Okay, now I can find him. If he stops for a second. There we go. And what you can see from Joel's vantage point there is the next to the cities as we approach. And as Joel mentioned earlier, this city is controlled by the Tamarin Tigers, one of the other factions you'll be able to find in Jisan province. And again, you can see quite early on from the banners, it's very clearly distinguished. So when you approach one of the areas, one of the faction-controlled areas in the playfields, you won't be under any illusions as to whose area you're approaching, so that if you aren't on good terms with that faction, then you'll be able to find out. And if we pause just for a second on the roadway here, I think Joel can bring up his the first prototypes of the faction GUI that exists in the beta servers. I've made him look for his GUI now. He's gonna... And just prove that the lead designer knows where the things are in the GUI. There we go. And what this shows us is the icons for the different factions aren't in yet, but each one will actually have a pictorial symbol which depicts the different faction. And what you can see here is you can filter for factions that you're hostile with, that you're friendly with. You can see how much faction that you've earned for your current rank in each individual faction and how much you need to progress to the next level. Because just like the armors that Joel showed you earlier, there's rewards for every level as the players move up through the different ranks of the factions that they're friendly or become unfriendly with. And as we've mentioned before, it'll also allow you to...
Yeah, can you hear me?
It'll open up some areas of the playfield, and it'll also make some areas much more difficult to traverse for you once you become enemies with certain of the factions. You can also see here in the faction GUI that Joel's showing that you can get some text that explains a little bit more about the backstory and about the information about that faction and where it stands in the game world and what it actually means.
Are you sure?
In terms of the story, because as Joel mentioned, while there's an open warfare in Jisan, there's also a lot of kind of more subtle and political intrigue all throughout the expansion. In Jisan province, the conflict is very outward, and the Tamarin Tigers and the Scholars of Shengho are fighting with each other in the open. In a lot of the other playfields, the factions are going to be doing much more kind of sneaky and underhand tactics to undermine each other. So let's go into the city. We're going to walk forward here and go through the... Again, you can see, the rice paddies on either side of the road. The artists have really managed to capture the feeling of being in this kind of Asian theme, this Chinese-inspired theme in Jisan, and really create some amazing vistas and some great scenery here. And again, using the banners very clearly, and you can see the armor there, very different to the Scholars of Shengho, so the players know that they're in a different area. This is, of course, the Tamarin Tigers, who are responsible for taming the tigers in Jisan, and which the players might eventually be able to learn if they gain up in faction with them. And again, you can see here what Joel mentioned earlier, as many of the buildings as possible are actually open and available for the player to walk through and walk around and be able to get in and poke in. We've tried to make there be as few as possible closed off buildings. Oh, again, you can see some of the beta players there running around alongside, just to prove this, this is a live demo. We're playing live on the beta servers.
The users can't,
so the other participants in the beta are actually running around in the game while we're doing this demo. And now we're moving down towards, and you can see another of the shrine statues there by the wall. And as we go through, you can move towards the docks. Okay, so we're good to go. Oh, he's telling me the docks are on the other side. I'm getting lost in our own playfields. There you go. You can tell everybody the game director gets lost in his own playfields. But here again, you can see the southern marshes of the playfield again. Talk about the visual variety, and again, one of the magnificent pagodas off in the distance, and you can see the wonderful variety that exists within this playfield. We've gone from everything from the red forests through the harsh, dark, smoke-filled landscape of the battlefield, the lush green rolling hills, the swamps. You can see the real visual diversity that you're getting as you go through. And again, here we come up to some more of the children of Jill.